everybody. Welcome to the One Step at a Time podcast, where I am your host, Adrian Avila. And today I have the privilege and honor of having Jose Vallejo here. A little bit about Jose. Jose is, he's a little competitive, I like to say. Doing Ironman competitions,
Yep.
He doesn't look like it, but the guy rides a Harley over here, and part of the, I believe it's Churchill Mortgage Group is what you're with.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, I'm a mortgage loan officer with Churchill. Correct.
Yeah. But give the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you about,
Yeah, I'm a, what do they call it? Jack of all trades, master of none, right? I am a mortgage loan officer. I do compete in Ironman triathlons. I do ultra marathons. I'm a competitive jiu-jitsu martial artist, competing actually this Saturday here in Covina. So I do a little bit of everything, just stay young and active, try to keep young and active.
There you go, Jose. And I mean, you have to enjoy, this stuff, right?
I love it. I love it. It's really what helps me keep my sanity, right? I mean, I do work hard at my job, which is doing mortgage loans, helping people out. But I also like to play hard, and playing hard is doing all these other activities.
Right. And I think sometimes it's like when we're finding these activities, it kind of like opens up and stimulates our mind a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, especially in the mortgage industry, I know right now the way the market is, it's just
Tough.
It's tough out there.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Well, you would have qualified back in the day for a 700,000 mortgage.
Yeah.
It's now less now because of the way interest rates are.
Yeah. It's very tough for home buyers out there because of it. The cost of pricing has gone up, interest rates have gone up, and you said it's someone that would have qualified for 700 4 years ago is at about 400,000 right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the hard part is try finding a $400,000 house in LA, right?
Right?
That's
Just in
the tough part.
California.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go to the boonies.
They could be in Bakersfield, like.
Yeah, and even Bakersfield's already
Yeah,
at
that's
the
right. It's
500
growing. Yeah, you're right.
Because I was looking at a property out there for a buddy of mine,
Yeah.
and he's like, dude, I'm trying to buy this investment property
Yeah.
in the boonies of
Yeah.
Barstow. It's 5 something.
Yeah, it's gone up quite a bit.
But yeah. So we talked about your hobbies and everything like that. Any reading that you do?
Yeah. I do a lot of different types of readings. I do my reading like I do with my television shows. I jump from book to book. If something begins to bore me, I jump into another book. So I like to read books. I was previously in the military as well as in the Army from 95 to 2003. So
Nice.
I like military books, old war stories. Stories of heroic acts, like that really fires me up.
Yeah.
I do a little bit of self-help books and running books, so I'm all over the place. Yeah, I just finished reading David Goggins' second book.
Okay.
Which big fan of David Goggins. If you guys aren't familiar with David Goggins, look him up. But that guy's a sane human being with the acts that he does, but super talented and ultra tough guy.
Yeah, my sister-in-law, her son is all into David Goggins.
Yeah.
He's like listening to the Audible, reading it at the same time. So
He's a unique guy. He's a unique guy because he really, truly gets after it, right? So I always tell myself, or I joke with my family, if I could just be a fraction of the beast that guy is when he's out there running. But, that's where we, when running and doing the activities, that's what we strive to do, strive to be, right? That's
like my next, I'm going to venture into his book next.
Mm-hmm. They're fun.
I really haven't got into it, but once I do, I'll let you know, what my intake is on it.
Yeah. He had same, we talk about upbringings. We'll talk about upbringings. Yeah. You talk about a tough upbringing, and he was able to overcome a lot. And even as an adult, the challenges, so it gives me inspiration and motivation. And when I think a bit perspective wise, I'm like, yeah, that guy had it pretty tough. Right. So it's some good stories in there. Absolutely.
I look forward to actually reading him. Maybe David Goggins will be a freaking guest on this show.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But let's get a little bit about the background, like where you came from, Jose. Like
Sure.
the upbringings, the military experiences, and everything like that.
Sure. So I came into this country in my mom's belly. My mother was, I think, 6 months pregnant when she came into the country. Illegally, right? She crossed the border like everybody used to over the hills, and so I was born in Los Angeles in '77. But yeah, I'm a first generation American, and I grew up in Los Angeles, the Pico Union District, for a little bit, and then moved to La Puente. But upbringing, I mean, it was very, very basic. hardworking, lower middle class family, and my dad worked his butt off. My mom did what she could to survive, but it was a good upbringing. A little bit like a lot of us, a little bit of you see a little bit of domestic violence from uncles and drugs and street violence.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate to stay away from most of it, right? Yeah, sadly, you see things that kids shouldn't see,
Yeah.
but at a very young age, I had an understanding of what was right and what was wrong, and I think that kind of helped shape me a little bit as I was getting older, like what I didn't want to do, what I didn't want to be, and yeah, I never wanted to be in a gang, even though you saw the gangs, and I didn't want to get in trouble, and I was scared of going to jail, right?
Yeah.
So you see kids going into jail, or young people going into jail. I had uncles that would be in and out of jail, and cousins, and you would say like, man, that's scary, right? That's scary. So
Yeah.
it kind of helped keep me on this side of the law, right?
Right. So, I mean, talking about that really quick.
Yeah.
Like, what actually made you not want to pursue that side, right? Because I came from an upbringing similar to that with my dad's side, right?
Yeah.
And it was, a lot, and I can't say my whole dad's side, just like a portion
Sure.
of it, right? And so I could have easily gone into the drugs, easily gone into the gang, easily, right? It was accessible.
Right.
But what kept me from actually approaching that side was the fundamentals that my mom's parents gave me, right? They gave me a strong foundation, and then I started, this is wrong, this is right.
Right.
But like, what was that foundation that gave you the notion of, what, this isn't where I'm gonna go to?
Yeah, it was, I hate to say that it wasn't even my parents that helped me with that foundation. My dad worked really hard, and he's an old school Mexican guy that works hard and never tells you he loves you, never is proud of you, but he is, right? He's a good man. But on my mom's side, it was family, like you said, the drugs and this and that. But I think for me, a lot of my friends, I had older friends that would actually tell me, they used to call the OGs, right? And say, hey, stay in school, like you don't want this life. And it's true, I didn't want that life. It just didn't seem appealing to me. I mean, kind of going a little fast forward, right before I joined the Army, I was living in La Puente, and I had a lot of cousins and friends, and every Friday night and every Saturday night, they were parked in the front yard, trucks blasting music, drinking beer.
Are you sure we're not?
Yeah,
not the same
we grew up in the
family?
same neighborhood, yeah. But that's what it was. That was the life, right? And I clearly remember, and this is no diss on any of them because I love them all and they're good people, but some of them were in their late 20s, and they had been doing this for years, right? So in high school, I thought to myself, like, man, is that what my future is going to be like? Is that what I can expect out of my future? Seeing or hanging out, drinking beer, smoking weed, and like they were having a blast. They were living life, loving life. But I just didn't want that in my future. So that's one of the reasons I decided to join the Army and just get away. And it was a very tough decision. But at the same time, I knew that wasn't my future. I knew at a very young age that wasn't my future. I didn't want to be, like I said, I didn't want to be in gangs. I don't want to do drugs. I didn't want to, I did want to hang out with my friends and cousins and drink beer some days, right? But I didn't want to do it for the 10 years of my life from 16 to 26 or 30. And so it really, I hate to say it, but it kind of scared me. That future kind of scared me, right? I wanted more for myself, and I wanted more for my future. And I had that little thing in my head, a little voice, and God, whatever it is that made me feel like I could do better. Like I felt like I had more potential, and I just didn't want to waste my potential.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a beauty thing, right? Because I mean, with everything that you do, I mean, I look at it a little deeper. It's like, well, how many people could you not have helped get into a home? I mean, you helped me purchase my first property, right? And so, like, that was just a blessing in itself, because I had a difficult
To
file.
say the least.
To say the least.
I'm kidding.
But you know what I mean, though, right? It's like, how many other people could you win and have been helped if you weren't here today?
Taking a different path. Yeah. I know. And it's, again, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. It's great to hear that you appreciate the help. It's something I didn't think about till way later in my career. I started doing home loans in 2003. Right, I just gotten out of the Army, and I was working at a Countrywide Home Loans is the name of the company. It doesn't exist anymore. and we were just doing loans. We were just doing a lot of loans, but my thought around what I was doing and how I was doing business really changed maybe in the last 10 years of me doing this business. And when I started talking to families and realized how much we were impacting their families and their futures and their ability to grow in wealth. And so my mindset really changed. So, like I said, I really appreciate you saying that because it confirms that what we're doing like is still a big deal, and I didn't think of my job as a noble job, a noble act. Because back when I was young and we were starting in this business, we were just like, hey, let's just do loans. And
everybody gets a loan.
Yeah, everybody gets a loan. It's funny you said that. We would joke, and this is a terrible joke, right? But we would joke and say like, if they pass the mirror test, they qualify for a loan. Like, what's the mirror test? Put the mirror under the nose, and if they fog it up, they qualify for a loan. So basically, anybody with a heartbeat qualifies for a loan.
Anybody with a heartbeat,
yeah. So it was the wild west of mortgage loans back in those days. But yeah, it did, things have changed, and you're right. I feel really proud of the work we've done over the last 20 years.
And your team, then was a phenomenal team, and you have that leadership in you.
Yeah, thanks.
Right. And I know what you're trying to do for the future Vallejo team.
Yes.
Right. I know what that is.
Yeah.
But without I think our past, I don't think you'd be able to do that.
Yeah, that's so true. One of the things I kind of think about is when you talk about the past, when my parents bought their house, and so many people like my parents, people that came to this country from Mexico, they're chasing the American dream. They became U.S. citizens through the amnesty program. That's why they're huge Ronald Reagan fans, by the way. But there's so many people like them today that need guidance, that need that extra attention, that need that extra, I don't call it hand holding, but just that extra care, right?
Yeah.
And I always, when I'm helping a family out, you say you were tough, it really was easy, right? But there's families where you say, hey, I need a bank statement, and they have no idea how to get a bank statement.
Yeah.
Right? I need these documents, and they have no idea where to keep the documents. So it gives me a lot of pleasure to be able to help those families and give them guidance and, show them how buying a home, once they buy their home, can help them leverage into doing other things because, homes appreciate. And we talk about appreciating assets, which is a concept that a lot of people don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
So it does make me feel good when I help all families, right? But especially those that really, really need that extra help.
Yeah. And being able to help those families, it's helping everybody grow.
Yes.
Right? In different ways. On my side, it's, I help people grow on their business side, right? Through the coaching program that we do. Mm-hmm. I help people grow their wealth through the properties we build for them, right?
Yeah.
So, but it all intertwines together.
It does.
And, being able to help people grow helps us as a community grow too.
I agree.
And I think a lot of it happens with the Latinos too. It's
right.
like we're so good at working, right?
Yep.
Like we're so good at putting the hammer to the nail.
Right.
But when it comes to like growing financially in wealth or in growing the business, because I know a lot of subcontractors that are good at what they do.
Yeah.
On the trade side, but like the business side, it's like they need the guidance for it.
Yeah, we talked about this before. I guess you and I were having coffee. We talked about this before. A lot of people are great operators they're great at their craft, whether it's welding or being a mechanic or whatever that craft is, and they're not great at running a business. But if you're just coming into this country, like the Latinos, or even for some of us that didn't have the proper guidance. I was born in this country, but I didn't have the proper guidance around me. I didn't have the proper mentors around me that said, this is how you're going to operate a business. This is how you're going to run a business. This is how you're going to grow a business. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of my career, I was good at doing the business. I was just good at getting the loans done, but I didn't think of it as a business. I didn't think of it as helping people. I was just kind of going through the motions. But you're right. We miss that sometimes, and a lot of people miss that. But that's where I take a little pride in doing the little extra hand holding, I guess, and teaching them how this asset can turn into so much more, right?
Right.
And that's one of the parts of my job that I really, really love is the loans, the paperwork, the income calculating. It's sometimes fun for me, right? But sometimes not. But the bigger picture is like once you have your home, like what is this home going to do for you? Like. That's really where the big reward is in my job. And that's where I feel rewarded.
Yeah. I mean, your leadership, does that come from like the Army side?
Yeah,
And
it
I know
could be.
we
Yeah.
never really talked about like your time in
No,
the service.
yeah, I think it could. I had some great leaders in the army. I've said this to a lot of people that I met. I met some of the smartest people on earth when I was in the army. Also, some of the dumbest, right? I had some great leaders, fantastic leaders, and the leadership style that I learned in the army. I was in the combat unit. I was on an M1A1 main battle tank in
Mm-hmm.
First Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Kansas. So our leaders were actually on the tanks with us. Our leaders were in the field with us. And one of the leadership styles that I learned is lead by example, right? So our leaders wouldn't just say, "Hey, let's rush that hill and do what X, Y, Z." Like they were doing it where we created a business or a battle plan and we would execute together.
Yeah.
And one of the things after executing whatever plan we had, we would do an after action review. So hey, how did this plan go? It's an offensive attack or hasty defense, whatever the plan was. How did it go? So it was something I learned is, you know, let's do it right. Let's try to do it right the first time. And if we don't, let's learn from these mistakes and figure out how to do it right the next time.
Yeah.
So I did learn, and it's a great question because I never really thought about it. As
That's
far
what I'm here for.
yeah,
I'm here
no,
to
it really is a
tinker
good
your
question
mind.
because I hadn't thought about it like my leadership style, but that is really it. I think from the military, a lot of the military leaders we had it wasn't a general in a tent somewhere saying, "Hey, go do this." It was our platoon sergeants and platoon leaders, the lieutenants and the captains that were in the field with us. They were on the gunnery range with us. They were firing with us, and the ones that were really good at it were great at sharing their knowledge with us.
Right.
So we were able to learn basically hands-on, watching an expert do it. So it was really, really cool to see.
That's pretty cool because I mean, and here I go going
Yeah.
into your head right now, but
Get out of my
yeah,
head.
right?
Yeah.
In your head, right? No,
Yeah.
but does that military experience of like the leadership kind of is it embedded into you when you're in jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu is so different.
Well, because
Yeah.
you did say
Yeah.
like you would create the plan in your head, right?
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
And then you go back like when you go back and
Yeah.
reflect, because I think you told me like
Mhm.
there's times you get tossed, right?
Oh, all the
Like,
time.
all the time,
Yeah,
right?
all the time.
Like how does that correlate with like your military experience, and then how does that fall into how you're trying to mentor other lenders now?
Yeah, I mean the jiu-jitsu thing. Let's talk about that because again, good question. I did mention when I go into a competition. I'm doing a competition this Saturday, and one of the things that one of my current mentors, Mike Hardy, which
Mm-hmm.
has told us, and he said it about business. He said it about how we do our daily activities. Is hey, if you're going to play the game, you got to play to win, right? So when you're going into like a jiu-jitsu competition, at sometimes I go in there and if I don't have a plan in my head, I'm just kind of being reactive and being defensive, and I'm just trying not to survive, not to get choked out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different mentality and attitude going into competition with the mindset of I'm here to win, and let me go through a couple of things in my head of how I can win, right? I'm gonna maybe take them down first and then pass the guard and try to take the back and apply a choke. So I do go into the mindset. I when I'm conscious of it, I go into a mindset with winning in mind, then I create a little plan around that. So it's kind of a reverse engineer. If my end goal is winning, how am I going to get to winning, right?
Right.
And in all the events that I do, whether it's an ultra marathon, my end goal is finishing, but how am I going to finish it? And I can kind of chunk it up, and but it is a mindset of going. I'm playing to win, right? In business, we have to define what winning looks like, right? And if it's the day to day, we have day to day wins. So I today I want to win by qualifying, 2 families for a home loan. Qualifying, the win is not in their mind. They haven't won yet because they don't have the house, right? But how we get there, and when we talk about winning with the team, my number one goal is to create a great customer experience for them, because everybody knows or everybody's heard how tough buying a house can be, how challenging getting a loan. And so we kind of want to change that mindset for people. Like, yeah, it's tough, but tough is relative. Like, and I always say, like, you're going to get a $600,000 loan or whatever that number is, all you have to do is give me paycheck stubs, W-2s, and that kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of try to simplify it for them so it doesn't seem so heavy on them. But the end goal, obviously, the end goal for that family is to get a home. But as we're creating a plan around that, I mean, we have plans around how the initial conversation is going to go. I want to make sure that I provide a good experience, even in the initial conversation, which we call the discovery call. Let me discover what your goals are, and that way I can make a plan on how to reach those goals. And then when we're in the process, we have a plan around the process, and then the funding, and we even have plans around post closing, like, hey, how are we going to stay in touch with our clients after we close? And that's something that we could always do better. But again, we're creating plans around these to
Right.
continue to not just help you now, but continue to deliver service even after the fact, and create a great experience, and continue to, with those families that need it, provide valuable guidance on how this house we can leverage this asset into other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. I mean, and you have it like you said, you plan it out, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so my question to you is like, what's been the biggest lesson that you've ever experienced in life where planning didn't happen, right? And it kind of like hit you, and it was like, shit, like fuck, okay, like now it's like, now I learned from this
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
and now how do I use that experience in life now?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about life, and just life in general, right? And not business, not running, not army. Like, I think one of the things where I fail to plan, and a lot of us don't. I mean, I say a lot of us. I don't talk for a lot of us, but I'll talk for myself. Is, I didn't plan on how to be a great husband, how to be a great father, how to be a great son, and how to be a great brother, and which is something that I'm conscious of now, right? And I know that's really big picture thing, right? But at the end of it all, like, that should be the most important thing, right? I mean, who cares about money if you don't have family? Who cares about things? And like, if I didn't have my wife by my side, like, what's it all for, right? If I didn't have my kids supporting me, like, what am I working so hard for? Like, for me to have nice crap? Like, who cares about nice shit? Like, I mean, I care a little bit, right? But like, I feel like failing to plan that aspect of my life, is somewhere where I failed early in life, right? Failing to plan, like, how can I better take care of my wife? How can I be a better father? How can I be a better son and brother? And I became aware of this very late in life. I mean, I'll be 47 this year, so I was probably late 30s, early 40s when I really became conscious of this. And, we all try to be good humans. I try to be a good husband and this and that, but it wasn't an intentional act, right? And it wasn't something I was planning. And go through life working my butt off, and I'm thinking, like, man, this is one place where I failed, or I could have done better, I think, right?
It's funny that you say that, because like I feel I'm in that little journey too right now. I mean, we have a small like immediate family, right, with my cousins and my aunts and my uncles, and man, like, I missed my goddaughter's birthday.
Oof,
right?
Yeah.
Like, and the most ironic thing is that the day before her birthday, I was telling Sue, like, dude, tomorrow's Alexis's birthday.
Yeah.
Like, like I gotta remember to I gotta call her or text her or whatnot. And that day came through, flew.
Oh man.
Right?
Yep.
And it was like the busiest day, like, for some reason, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that day, it wasn't even like my schedule was open. And
Man.
all of a sudden, all these things like start popping up.
Sure.
And then Tuesday came, and then it wasn't until I think Wednesday.
You're like, shit.
And I looked down at my watch,
Yeah.
and it was freaking behind 2 days.
Oh man.
But again, I mean, I was like looking at the calendar, but it didn't click on me because of everything in the background.
Yeah.
And so, with family, like, that's all I say we have, is because we're a very like tight little immediate family. And man, I was like, oh shit, her birthday passed.
Oh man.
And I was like, dude, I feel like the worst Nino ever, right? That's my first kid, right? And so I'm like, man, I told her, I go, there's no excuse though, right?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, family is who we have.
Of course.
And the business will always be there, even when we're 6 feet under or in the furnace. Like, hey,
the world goes on.
The world goes on, right? But man, to forget that, right? And so now I'm like more intentional with like my family stuff. Like I
Yeah.
so I'll reach out to my sisters. I reach out to my parents and just things like that. Like I have to make time for it.
Yeah, no, it's so important. And again, it's something that, I'll talk about birthdays and stuff. Like, again, thank God for my wife. Thank God for my wife and shared calendars, right? She'll put things on my calendar and she's like, don't forget to call this person. I'm
Right.
like, oh, thank God. So, yeah, otherwise my mind would be gone too. I'm often doing a lot of things. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. Being intentional about taking care,
Yeah.
when I say taking care of your family, I mean, staying in contact with the family, reaching out and seeing if there's anything that they need that we can help with. I mean, I think that's something that's, I won't say lacking. It was lacking in my family growing up. It was lacking in my life. My family from my side, my parents, my siblings, we weren't very close growing up.
Yeah.
That's why it didn't hurt going to the army when I was 17. I was like, bye, like I'm gone. Yeah.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. I was gone. And my wife's family, she has 10 aunts and uncles. She had, some of them have passed since, but she has 40 plus cousins, first cousins. And they all love each other. They all call each other. They all check on each other. So I learned a lot from her family, just watching how a different family dynamic operates, where like they would come over and visit. When we first got married, they would come over and visit. And I'd be like, hey, wouldn't you guys be more comfortable in a hotel? They're like, no, we're good here. Well, 10 people sleeping in the living room. But they loved each other and they had fun with each other. It was a really cool thing to see. So it changed the way I kind of view my family too. Like, hey, I think it'd be cool to be more like that. It'd be cool, more loving, more
interactive.
Yeah, more interactive. Like remembering birthdays. Before I didn't care. Like it wasn't on my mind, right? And now we realize like how important it is to call someone like I'm sure your goddaughter is like, what happened to my knee? Like
dude, like Jesse, I felt horrible, bro.
Well, you better buy a nice gift to make up for it.
And you know what? No, the beauty thing about her is like she's very humble. Like
That's
she's
awesome.
very like, you know what? Like, hey, like she's not looking for like the fancy car, right? I mean, her dad, my uncle, very, the guy's very successful and everything like that. So I mean, he could easily buy her a $200,000-$300,000 car.
Oh, nice.
Right? But she wanted a Jeep Rubicon.
Well, anyway, by the way, to tell that uncle if he wants to, if you can easily do it. But yeah, no, that's cool though. That's a cool car. The Jeep, I'll take it.
The Jeep Wrangler, right? But and then her brother ended up getting I think it was like an M4 or something like that, or M3. But I was like, dude, but you could, she's just that type of person. But but we talk about how like you want to remember memories, right?
Yeah,
and so like we were remembering the other day, like we were all at the Dodger game, like at the suite, because my uncle was able to get a suite for the whole family.
That's awesome.
And so we were just all chilling up there, having a good old time. And so, that was something that like now as we're older cousins now, like we get to experience.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But before, like I think just like the random birthdays weren't as impactful, I guess you can say. But as we get older, now they mean more.
They matter,
more, right? And so that's why like when her birthday came up, I was like, damn, like you know what? She turned 21.
Yeah, it's a
like,
big one.
It's a big one,
yeah, it's a big one, yeah.
And so it it kind of hit home. I mean, it kind of like downed me for a day or two.
Yeah, I mean,
because I just I felt bad, right?
Yeah, of course. But it's good that you felt bad. I mean, honestly, because that means you care, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's good that you felt bad. It means you care, and it's. But yeah, it is important. I think there's a saying, and I don't know how the saying goes, but I think it ends with people remember how you make them feel, right? And I think that's so important. Like a birthday call. Someone passes, like it's a hard time, so reach out to that friend and say, hey, sorry for whoever passed, like a mother or your dad, whatever. Like I think it's it's a 5-minute call or 3-minute call that we can do, and it just it helps you stay connected, and it really is uplifting. I mean, it really is uplifting. I got my dog passed last year, and I was devastated. I know it sounds crazy, but I really was devastated, and many people reached out. They're like,
I know how that feels, man.
Man, I cried for a week. Like it was rough. But people that know how it feels, they're like, dude, my heart goes out to you. Like, and it's cool to receive those messages, right? So I mean, and because of that lesson, like now we have to remember to pass it forward and reach out to those that we care and remember their special days and stuff. Not giving you shit for not remembering the day, but it's a reminder to me to continue to do these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, just always being there for somebody.
Yeah,
right?
it's important.
And so, I mean, I know in the mortgage industry, you guys are always in contact with. Well, I still get the emails like, hey,
Yeah.
like this is your
Yeah.
property and everything like
Yep.
that. So I mean, like I know it's automated, but
Yeah.
it's a good feeling, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like it's there. It's
Yeah.
that touch, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I know, and I mean, we're lucky. Technology has helped us stay in touch with people. You know, we have CRMs now, and you know the property reports, and I think
Mhm.
it's a little impersonal. Like, but some people don't know it's coming from a computer. Like some people don't
Right.
know it's automated. So I'll still get calls and say, hey, I got your email about this property, or you know, one of my campaigns they send like a cookie recipe, right? I don't know if you ever got
Yeah.
my cookie
Oh, I
recipes.
don't have the cookie recipe
Yeah,
yet.
but
I
they'll get
haven't
the
been fortunate enough,
yeah
I guess, to get on that
yeah.
list yet.
You'll get the cookie recipe soon, but they're like, so we're replying, hey, I really enjoyed the cookie recipe. And I'm like, oh, we sent an email on a cookie recipe? I better figure it
I
out,
better
right?
figure this one
Yeah.
out,
But
right?
no, it is cool because you know, I mean, I think of my 20-year career in doing mortgage loans, it's probably been over 1,000 families we've helped. And so I remember a lot of them, but it's impossible to remember all of them, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool to stay in touch with families, even if it is via the automated system.
Yeah.
It helps us out.
I know you talked about, it's 20 years that you've been doing this.
Hmm.
And, before back in the day, it was as long as there was fog on the
Yeah.
mirror, right? But
Yeah.
if you could go back to when you started in the business, right?
Yeah.
Like what would be that one solid piece of advice that you would give yourself
Wow. Yeah.
to just, better yourself or to like
Sure.
project, do your like a 5-year projection to actually get there sooner?
Yeah, you know, if I can go back to 2003 when I started, like so when I started, I knew nothing of the business. I didn't know how to spell mortgage. You know, they gave us some scripts and they said, hey, when you call people, say this script. And so I didn't really know what I was doing. And what I was doing is helping people buy one of the biggest purchases of their life that can potentially be life changing. And I didn't know that. And I didn't know that relationship with them, if kept for a long time, and you know, and I don't want to make this about like money or anything, but I could have continued to help them and continue to grow and grown a lot faster
Mm-hmm.
because it was so transactional back then. You know, in 2003, I think we would do 10 loans where they were purchase or refinance a month and move on to next month, move on to next month. And I didn't really stay in touch with the first maybe 5 to 8 years of people that we helped. We didn't stay in touch with them. We would do the loans and move on. And we weren't really building relationships with the clients, with the referral sources. So when I say referral sources, some of the clients I got via a real estate agent. Some of the clients I got via a tax preparer. And it was just like, thanks, moving on to the next. And I think if I can go back and tell my younger self, or give my younger self advice, to be like, first of all, these are all human beings, and we can build a relationship, whatever that relationship is. You know, we don't have to be best friends with all the clients. It's a lot of people, but you know, continue to check in with them, continue to learn about them. You know, keep notes on their goals and dreams, and see if you can help them achieve more. And it's not just a transaction.
Right.
You know, it's helping a family secure a home for their kids, for their future. And it's really that. I didn't think about it in that sense. I just thought about it as a transaction, where now I know it's so much more. I know it's you know, a home could mean so much to a family.
Yeah.
And what a home could do. I mean, I personally, what it's done for me and my family. The first home that I bought in 2002, before I got into the mortgage industry, I wouldn't have bought it without my dad's help. Thanks for my dad. But when I sold that home, I leveraged the proceeds of that and bought other properties and apartments, and I was able to leverage it without a lot of guidance. I kind of figured things out on my own a little bit, but it's done so much for me and my family. And if I can show more people how to do that, right? If I can show more people how to do that, I think, and especially people without the proper guidance. Like one of my newfound passions is helping not just first generations Americans like myself, but first generation homeowners, like that don't have a parent that know how to do this, know how to buy properties. And it's not their fault. No one ever taught them.
Yeah.
So again, and it's a long-winded answer, but if I can go back in time, I would say, hey, all of these families, like, learn more about them and see how you can continue to help and continue to serve them and grow to accomplish their goals. And keep a database of all these people, because I didn't.
Yeah.
I worked at a big bank, so I didn't know what my future held back then. I thought I would be there forever. You know, the bank shuts its doors, it gets acquired.
Yeah.
I lose all those clients that I had ever helped. I didn't keep a contact list for hundreds and hundreds of loans I did back
Yeah.
then. So yeah, I would do more of that, more relationship building and networking with my clients and their referral sources.
That's a big one, I think. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of like your whole like because I know I'll touch on it a little bit, but you're trying to mentor other loan officers,
Yeah.
right? And trying to grow that part of it.
Yeah, one of the things I want to do is find loan officers that were or are where I was maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of starting in the business. They know the X's and O's of doing loans, but they don't know what this industry can do for us. And I think I'd love to help, young. When I say young in our industry, help them structure a business and really build their business. One of the other lessons I learned when I worked at big banks for the first 10 years of my career is that I didn't have a brand. When I said I didn't have a brand, like I worked for the bank and no one knew who Jose was, but I was with Countrywide or Bank of America, whatever the bank was, and that was my brand. And again, later in life, through mentors and people that are great in this industry, said, "Hey, you're the secret sauce. It's not the bank. It's you're the secret sauce. You're what brings these families value." And a lot of people don't think of it that way, right? Most mortgage companies, most banks can do loans. We can all do loans, but they can't all do loans the way I do loans, right? And not that it's special, but I'm special, but I really do believe it that way. And I believe that if I bring a young person into the business, I could teach them how to do loans their way and build their brand and build their image where they can grow their business.
Yeah, and that's what I talk about. It's like mentorship and being an actual coach of and truly embracing what that is, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody and their mothers is a coach out there, right? Everybody and their mothers is a mentor out there.
Right.
But it's us, the sauce.
Yeah.
That makes the burger good, right?
Yeah, yep.
We're In-N-Out sauce, right? We're the secret sauce,
yeah.
right? And when you told me what you want to do, I'm like, dude, like you have it in you, right?
Yeah.
Like you have the military background that gives you the structure to tell you, right? You have the discipline and everything like that. And your niche of the mortgage industry. I mean, look at the way it's the trajectory of mortgages is right now, right? It's such a freaking roller coaster.
It is, yeah.
Right? And right now it's riding this high wave right now of, hey, not everybody's going to qualify for what they want, but the guys who are, or the people who are doing the mortgages now, only the strong ones are going to be able to survive this, this wave.
Yeah, I mean, and sadly, I don't know the exact statistic, but in the last 2 years, over 90,000 licensed loan officers have exited our industry, right? But I think it has to do a lot with that. It has to do, how we run our business and how we continue to serve people. And I do believe with all my heart that if you're going into it with the thought of how I'm serving clients, it's not about me. It's about serving clients and serving families. I think that's how we're going to survive, because that's really the big picture of it. If it was all about me, and I want to do more, it's hard to really have that as an end goal, right?
Yeah.
So I want to continue to serve families. I want to continue to help, like I said, first-generation home buyers or people that don't have the guidance and give them the structure of how to get there. And I think that's what's helped me stay relevant even through these tough times, because people share that, right? Good news spreads, fortunately,
it does.
Amongst families. I work here in an office in San Dimas, so I don't have 20 families walking in my door like the big banks do. No. So everyone that walks in my door is a family that I can help, right? And I want to do the best I can for them.
And I know you talk about the whole, helping with the financial literacy stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I know we talked about, possibly doing something here at McKinley with them, just so, the older kids start, gaining some exposure to it, right?
Yeah. Something I've done, I partnered up with a couple of a real estate agent named Catalina Pasillas and a New York Life agent named Chantel Balta, and we've taught a couple of literacy, financial literacy for teens.
Right.
And I've done speaking at my old high school where I talked about this too, but it wasn't my intent when I went there, but the talk turned into that. I went to a Veterans Day event. I wanted to talk, everybody wanted to talk. I thought I was going to talk Army stuff, but I ended up talking about financial literacy. And again, this is a concept, and it was my old high school. So I shared the story with them where I said, hey, I know what a lot of your lives is like. I know what the weekends are like. Your cousins are drinking beer on the weekends. So
And they're all like, how
how did you know? Yeah. I'm like, I grew up right here. So, but I wanted it to introduce simple concepts like investing, right? And the example I always tell the young people is, we have $200 in our pocket. We can go out and buy a pair of new Jordans, or you can buy shares of Nike stock, right? And I'll tell them, I think it's currently trading at $99. So you can be a part owner of Nike, or you're going to get shoes that are going to wear and depreciate. So these concepts are new to a lot of young people. Investing in appreciating assets, credit, how to fix their credit. No one teaches. I ruined my credit when I was a kid. They gave me a credit card when I was 17, and I maxed it out the first couple of months.
We won't talk about that one.
Yeah. But, I like sharing that with people because I made every credit mistake. I've made every credit mistake. When I was young, I just didn't know how to manage my credit. So we're hosting every other month right now seminars here in San Dimas for teens and their parents. And what I found is, which is great, it's for teens, but the parents end up asking a lot of questions because, again, as adults, they don't teach a lot of this in high schools and colleges. A young lady actually was invited to our event by her parents. She's a college student in University of San Diego, and she was sharing with us after our presentation how helpful it was. She's like, wow, I never knew about credit. And I said, yeah, you go to college, they're going to give you a ton of debt, student loans, but they're not going to show you how to manage that debt, right? They're going to go out and work and pay your loans off. And but again, no one teaches you about how that debt is impacting your credit and your ability to borrow more money in the future. And when I talk about borrowing money in the future, I tell these people, like, if you have great credit, you can borrow money to invest in appreciating assets, like a home, like a business, like different things. So that's something that I'm passionate about at the moment. One of my many passions is continue to help young people just understand the concepts, or at least plant the seed of that concept. We had a 10-year-old kid in one of our classes, or one of our events, and he was selling chickens, right? And it was really cool. I think, selling chickens. We were talking about business and how he's going to grow his business, scale his business, and it was really cool, man. But I'm really having a lot of fun talking to the young people about these concepts.
And so, as you took your tour of McKinley, like, I mean, what were your thoughts?
Man, I think
because a lot of people don't know about this.
No,
place, right? They all think is that part of the high school, right? Or like,
it's so true. I've been a San Dimas resident for 5 years now, and I just learned about McKinley maybe about a year and a half ago, and I think what McKinley does is fantastic here. And as I'm going through, I mean, I love the facilities. I see the gym and the pool, and the music room, and ideas are just running through my head. Like, man, there's so much potential to continue to help the people, the kids here at McKinley too. I think what they're doing is fantastic. All the programs that they have for them, and everything that the volunteers and the staff does for them is amazing. But I definitely need to talk to Kristen, and we'll continue to talk to see how I can get involved. I joke, I don't have a lot of talents. I work hard, I run hard, I do all these, but I'd love to share some of those passions with the kids. And I say, talents, not so many, but passions. I love running, I love cycling, I love martial arts. I like to talk about investing, and I'd love to share these passions with the young people. And I know if I knew this at a young age, what I know now, I mean, I've been blessed to have a great life, but I just think it would have changed the trajectory of my life and maybe be where I am much sooner without as many mistakes.
Right. And I think that's why we do what we do, right? It's like we're trying to help these kids, or help the youth, I guess you say, just in overall.
Right.
To give them some kind of baseline to start at, right? Because some of these kids don't know what to do.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like, what you're doing, what I'm doing, like, it's all going to make an impact. And it's not going to make an impact today.
Right.
But if we can get the impact tomorrow,
absolutely,
that's where it's going to count.
Absolutely.
I think one of my previous guests was like, they're all seedlings.
Yeah.
So we got to nurture those seedlings and help them grow, right? Because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones taking over
the future of America. Yeah.
And so we can make that change, one kid at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
I agree. I think there's so much potential for change with small acts that we do, and we don't think about it as adults. We're so busy in our own lives and business and families, but I mean, if you can talk to a couple of kids and introduce concepts of, investing or whatever that concept is,
Yeah.
or starting a business, and again, it could change the trajectory of their life,
Right.
and then they can make someone else's life better, and then continue to pass it
It's a
on.
domino effect.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, Jose, thank you very much for being an attendant today,
Yeah.
being a guest out here. And, we really appreciate, everything you're doing out there in the world, right? And thank you for your service for the years that you provided to us. And I just leave it at, I think you said it best, if we can just start a little bit at a time, we can make a huge impact for the future.
I agree.
And with that being said, we thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.
Thank you.